Something's happening with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, and fans can't stop talking about it. From dramatic changes in his appearance to the way he's showing up, or not showing up in the spotlight, the internet is buzzing with one question: is The Rock finally starting to lose his grip on the fanbase that made him unstoppable? Some say he's reinventing himself, others say he's overexposed, and a growing number claim they're simply tired of him. But how did the most charismatic figure in wrestling and Hollywood go from beloved icon to trending topic for all the wrong reasons? When photos of The Rock surfaced from the set of his new film The Smashing Machine, fans were stunned. The man once known for his massive frame looked dramatically leaner, almost unrecognizable to those who followed his bodybuilding-inspired routines for years. Social media lit up instantly, some praising his dedication to a challenging role, others questioning if something was wrong. Memes compared his slimmed-down figure to his wrestling days, while threads debated whether he'd pushed his body too far. At the Venice Film Festival, the transformation paid off in a way no one could ignore. The film received a roaring 15-minute standing ovation, with critics applauding Johnson's emotional performance. He even broke down in tears during the reception, showing a vulnerable side fans rarely see. Yet, back online, the reaction was far more divided. Some felt inspired by his shift towards serious acting, while others worried that the people's champ they'd grown up with was gone for good. And this was only the beginning, because fans weren't just talking about his new look. They were also asking where The Rock really stood in the world that first made him famous. For years, The Rock's rise felt unstoppable. Movies, wrestling, fitness brands, tequila, energy drinks, you couldn't scroll through social media without seeing his name attached to something. At first, fans loved the grind. It fit perfectly with his larger-than-life persona, the guy who never sleeps, never slows down, and somehow conquers everything he touches. But now? That constant presence is starting to feel different. Instead of excitement, many fans are calling it exhausting. Online forums have filled with posts saying he's everywhere and nowhere at the same time, in dozens of projects, yet none that truly stick. Some argue that his endless hustle no longer feels inspiring, it feels calculated. And this is where the backlash really takes shape. Because when someone is everywhere, their mystique disappears. The Rock's signature energy, once fresh and magnetic, now risks coming off as a rehearsed routine. Even casual fans are asking, if every post, every film, every interview feels like another promotion, where's the authenticity that made him so likable in the first place? But as the backlash grew louder, another wave of criticism hit. This time aimed not just at his presence, but at the quality of the projects carrying his name. If overexposure made fans restless, the quality of some of his recent projects only fueled the fire. Take Red One, for example. Marketed as a big holiday blockbuster with The Rock at the center, it landed with a thud for many viewers. Online reactions were brutal, some even labeling it the worst film I've ever seen. Instead of strengthening his Hollywood empire, it became a reminder that star power alone can't carry a weak script. And it's not just Red One. Across social platforms, fans are questioning whether his projects feel too formulaic, too safe, and maybe even too corporate. The big action scenes, the heroic one-liners, the same familiar smile, what once felt larger than life is now being accused of feeling predictable. To some, it seems less like The Rock is choosing roles for passion and more like he's attaching his name to whatever keeps the brand alive. Critics have even begun to suggest that Johnson's carefully managed image is part of the problem. When everything looks polished, nothing feels real. And when audiences start to sense that disconnect, disappointment quickly turns into frustration. As criticism over his projects piled up, a bigger question began floating through fan discussions. Has The Rock's authenticity finally worn thin? For decades, his charm came from the idea that what you saw on screen was the same person behind the scenes, funny, tough, humble, and larger than life. But now, whispers online suggest that the polished image might not match reality. Rumors claim that behind closed doors, Johnson is hyper-focused on control of his brand, his contracts, and even the way he's portrayed in film scripts. Reports have surfaced that he sometimes demands creative power over projects, leading fans to wonder if that obsession with image is causing the content itself to suffer. Whether true or not, the perception alone has added fuel to the backlash. On forums and social media, fans are voicing that they no longer know who Dwayne Johnson really is. Is he the underdog who fought his way out of wrestling into superstardom? Or is he now a corporate machine whose every move is calculated for maximum profit? Even his constant motivational posts, once adored, are now mocked by some as copy-paste positivity, with little depth behind them. The uncertainty has left fans divided. Some argue this is just the internet tearing down a star at his peak. Others insist the cracks are real, pointing to broken promises in wrestling, underwhelming films, and the endless stream of product tie-ins as proof. And while those debates rage, Johnson himself has already begun moving in a new direction. one that might reveal whether he can truly win fans back, or if the glory days are behind him. For all the criticism circling online, it would be wrong to say The Rock is finished. In fact, some of his recent moves suggest the opposite. His role in the Smashing Machine didn't just surprise fans, it stunned critics who had never considered him capable of delivering the kind of raw, vulnerable performance that makes award season headlines. Johnson has built his reputation on being larger than life, but in this film, he stripped all of that away. The 15-minute standing ovation at the Venice Film Festival wasn't just applause for a movie, it was validation that a man who once seemed typecast as the indestructible action hero could step into a role defined by fragility and pain, and still own the screen. Watching him tear up as the crowd rose to its feet reminded people that behind the million-dollar smile and endless branding deals is someone who still has something to prove. Even outside the film, his relentless drive hasn't gone unnoticed. Johnson continues to share glimpses of his grueling routines, his early mornings in the gym, and his late nights on set. For some, these posts are just more of the same motivational content he's always shared, but for others, they serve as a reminder of why they admired him in the first place. He's the embodiment of the no excuses mentality, the guy who never slows down no matter how heavy the criticism gets. Stories about his past injuries, his gut health struggles, and the sheer physical transformation required for the Smashing Machine only add to that image of determination. Fans who might have grown tired of his endless promotions still find it difficult to deny the discipline that continues to define him. And that's the thing about being at the top for so long, backlash is inevitable. Every superstar eventually hits a point where the public turns skeptical. The bigger the celebrity, the sharper the criticism when cracks begin to show. It's a cycle as old as fame itself. Audiences build someone up, shower them with love, and then when success feels too comfortable or predictable, they start looking for flaws. The Rock is no exception. But history has also shown that some of the most powerful comebacks come right at the moment when fans think they've had enough. Reinvention doesn't happen when things are easy, it happens when the pressure is at its highest, when doubt is the loudest, and when every move is scrutinized. Johnson now stands at that crossroads. On one side, he faces a vocal crowd of critics who say his brand is tired, his movies formulaic, and his persona overexposed. On the other, he has opportunities to remind people why they cared about him in the first place, by taking risks, embracing vulnerability, and showing that he's more than just the polished superstar image he's cultivated for decades. Whether he chooses to lean further into dramatic roles or reinvent himself in wrestling and entertainment, the potential for a second act is there. But as his fans and critics clash louder than ever, one question remains. Is this just another chapter in the Rock's story of resilience, or are we watching the beginning of a decline he may never fully recover from? Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has built an entire career out of defying expectations. From the early days when people doubted whether a professional wrestler could ever transition into mainstream acting, to his reign as one of the highest-paid stars in Hollywood, he's thrived on proving critics wrong. He turned charisma into currency, muscles into a brand, and catchphrases into a global identity. But now, after decades of dominance, the conversation around him feels noticeably different. For the first time, the aura of invincibility is slipping. The signs are everywhere. His dramatic weight loss for the Smashing Machine shocked fans who had grown used to his massive physique, sparking both admiration and concern. The backlash over films like Red One, which many called uninspired or outright disappointing, chipped away at his reputation for delivering surefire blockbusters. Then there are the endless brand tie-ins, tequila, energy drinks, fitness apparel, that once amplified his persona but now risk feeling like overexposure. Add to that his complicated relationship with wrestling audiences, where he teases involvement but doesn't always deliver, and it becomes clear that his grip on pop culture dominance isn't quite as secure as it once was. And yet, it's impossible to count him out. Johnson has faced skepticism before, and every time he's found a way to turn doubt into fuel. The Smashing Machine reminded the world that he's more than just a one-dimensional action star. Critics who once dismissed him as a box office machine incapable of nuance had to reconsider after witnessing his raw, emotional performance. The 15-minute standing ovation at Venice wasn't just a win for the film, it was a statement that The Rock can step into a vulnerable role and still command the room. For fans who had grown tired of the polished superstar image, that glimpse of fragility was exactly what they'd been waiting for. It made him feel human again. And maybe that's the real turning point. For years, Johnson's carefully managed image has been both his strength and his weakness. The discipline, the positivity, the hustle, they've inspired millions. But they've also made him seem untouchable, almost mechanical. Showing cracks in the armor might be his best chance at reconnecting with audiences who feel like they've outgrown the persona he built. If he leans into authenticity instead of perfection, if he risks failure instead of repeating the formula, he could spark the kind of reinvention that keeps a superstar relevant for another decade. So maybe this isn't the downfall of The Rock at all. Maybe it's the crossroads every legend eventually reaches, where the adoration fades and the fight to stay relevant begins. The most unstoppable star of the 21st century now faces his biggest challenge yet, not lifting more weight, not cashing bigger checks, but winning back the fans who made him larger than life in the first place. The question is no longer whether he can dominate, it's whether he can evolve. Will Dwayne Johnson rise to the occasion, or are we witnessing the slow fade of an icon who finally ran into a challenge even he couldn't outwork?